Hello everybody, welcome to another installment of Chris didn't plan out this video enough before hitting record, so hey, we're just gonna wing it. Today, I'm going to talk about what makes characters top tier in Honkai Star Rail. Now, I think this is a video that isn't gonna be super popular, but I genuinely think that there is a lot of interest behind it and understanding why characters are good and why you should be using them, especially for the audience that I try to appeal to, which is beginner/intermediate level players. Understanding the reasoning behind why you're getting the advice that you are is genuinely so impactful instead of just being told something and being expected to understand it. I feel like that's something that a lot of players just will not do for people who are learning, and I would like to try and alleviate that if I can. With that said, there are some characters I'm going to skip over today because I feel like they are just very obvious as to why they are incredibly good. So, a character like Finon, or the DOT characters, we aren't really going to be talking about them just because it's very clear why they are good. They just do a lot. They do a lot. So, I feel like those characters are more understandable compared to, yeah. We'll get to him soon. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and yeah, let's get into the video. Alright, so we're not going to delay this at all. The first character I want to talk about today is 100% Gallagher. Now, Gallagher is a 4-star healer who came out over a year ago and was centered around break. So many of you might still be thinking, how the actual hell is he one of the best characters in the game and high enough to be deemed a top tier? And to be fair, I understand, because I did not get it for the longest time. I didn't get it. I thought he was good, I liked what he did, but I did not understand why people were praising him as like the second coming of Jesus. And to be fair, I still don't think he's all that. He's really good, but he's not like God himself, especially not anymore. This is a character who is extremely versatile and can fulfill almost anything you need of him in almost any team that you need. Let's dive in a little bit further. Gallagher is insanely SP positive. In Honkai Star Rail, you are almost always using skill points on your main DPS characters or on your support characters. You are constantly trying to output as much damage as possible, and that's usually linked to your skill. So, you have to hit your skill button, and there you go, you've lost SP. Some characters have ways to regenerate it, like Hycelin's. Every time you do a Hycelin's ult, you get a skill point back. However, many characters do not have this. That's where a character like Gallagher comes in. Gallagher's main healing ability is not linked to his skill, but rather his ultimate. Gallagher's ultimate will apply a debuff called Besotted on all enemies, and if you get him all the way up to E4, it'll last for 3 turns. This ultimate is so nice, because the moment you apply this debuff, you basically do not have to worry about anything except for your support. Your main DPS will always be attacking, which means they are getting healed by Besotted. I don't know the exact multiplier off the top of my head, but you are getting healed for a substantial amount every time you hit an enemy with Besotted, and it is affected by outgoing healing boost, meaning you can make it go even higher, which is insane. So now it just becomes, alright, well, I just need to make sure that my support doesn't die. And there are multiple supports now in this game who also attack every single turn, like Cypher, Gribby. You can even do it with Ceridra. These characters will also keep themselves alive that way, which also means that Gallagher can basic attack and keep himself alive, or if you really need to, you can skill with Gallagher since at E2, his skill gets a cleanse. So overall, the healing is incredible, and going back to the initial point, he's extremely SP positive because it is rare that he has to skill. And that SP positivity comes from the way his main kit works. The way Gallagher works is that when he ults, he'll get his enhanced basic attack. This enhanced basic attack will regenerate a skill point. Most enhanced basics don't, but Gallagher's does. So now, oh boy, now what you can do is wait for Gallagher's turn when he has ult. Then you basic attack, you get SP back, you ult immediately, you apply your debuff, and you'll heal Gallagher up. Then, you enhance basic attack. This enhanced basic attack will regenerate HP for your entire team if you have all of his traces unlocked, and it will regenerate another skill point. And on top of that, if you just still do not need to use skill points for the remainder of your fight, shocker, he will keep outputting skill points at a rapid rate. It is incredible what Gallagher can do as long as you put him with the right team, or if your team is tanky enough so that you don't need to rely on his skill. For teams like DOT, Gallagher is almost invaluable. And there are other good healers for DOT, but Gallagher's really nice because of that SP positivity. And DOT specifically, all of the DOT characters attack constantly, meaning they are constantly taking advantage of Gallagher's debuff besotted and getting healed up. There's also a team like Casterus if you have no Hyacinth, or before we had Hyacinth. You could just slap the debuff onto the enemies, and then Casterus, because she is doing the attacking, she will regenerate her HP constantly even if she is draining it. And then the dragon restores HP when it explodes. Bada boom, your sustain is still incredibly healthy and you're doing just fine. Gallagher's uses are genuinely immeasurable, and that is insane to say about a 4-star because there aren't many other 4-stars you can say that about. The only other ones would be like Tingyun and Pela, and even then Gallagher is so far ahead of both of them in my opinion. This character is simply incredible, and the nice part about him is you can build him to whatever you need him to be built to. You're going to want him built the same way in most cases, but you can use different light cones, and those different light cones can alter a lot of how he works. The most common options you're going to see are Quid Pro Quo, which is great for teams that need a lot of energy. So again, if you're running DOT, that's a good choice. You can run Perfect Timing, which is just going to massively increase your outgoing healing. Thank God. So if you really need it, there you go. You can run Multiplication, which is a 3-star light cone. You might be asking why you want to run that. It advances your action by 20% every single use of your basic attack. And remember, Gallagher is basic attacking constantly. So yeah, Gallagher just starts getting very, very speedy, and it is terrifying. And then last but not least, I cannot remember the other light cone off the top of my head. I might see if Predwin has it. There it is. Post-op Conversation. Post-op Conversation increases outgoing healing when you use your ultimate. And it increases your energy regeneration rate by 16%. Now, I will say, the outgoing healing bonus is a bit strange because at that point you will need to use your skill, but I digress. It is still a viable option because energy regeneration rate is such a beautiful thing in this game. Overall, Gallagher simply has a lot of ways to be useful, and that is completely, I feel like, unseen in this game. And it is very, very cool. Anyway, yeah. Gallagher is a very, very solid character, and it always bothers me when people don't use him, because I understand it now. Gallagher is so powerful, and he's so helpful overall, and people just don't really understand how to truly utilize him to the best of his ability. Also, utilizing him to the best of his ability can be a bit hard because you need a lot of speed on him, while also still maintaining your break effect, and making sure that he's not going to die in the process, because I mean, if you just have, like, no HP on him, I mean, look, you can get one-shot by quite a few things in this game at this point. Overall, Gallagher, incredible character, definitely deserving of such a high placement on tier lists, and he's probably going to be in this same realm for a very, very long time. Alright, well, that was the important one out of the way. Now we can start moving around to other characters. I feel like Gallagher was just... He's such a peculiar case because you don't expect to see a 4-star character so high up. It doesn't make sense that he's a top tier. At least everyone else up here is a 5-star, so there's a bit more argument and there's a bit more understanding, I feel like, associated with them, even if you don't truly get the character. You know what I mean? The next character I want to move on to is actually a set of characters real quick, and we're going to try and make these a bit faster. I want to quickly talk about the characters who... The way tier lists work is that a character's rating is also heavily linked to the characters that they support. So if you are supporting a very good DPS character, well, your rating is going to go up even though you haven't changed or you may not still be the best overall. The two characters I'm mainly looking at here for that specific thing are Bronya and Sparkle. Bronya is still a good character. Sparkle is still a good character. And they had other uses. However, these characters were very noticeably falling off a while ago, and then Finon and Archer came into the game and wanted these two characters above almost anything else. That means that their ranking just raised over time because these are two characters who are absolutely dominating the game. It naturally meant that the supports got pushed up a little bit, even though I don't particularly think they were fully deserving of it. I will say I've always been a bit of a Sparkle hater, and now I know fucking Kevin and Nim, so my opinion has changed a little bit. I still think that before Archer, she was not that good of a character. Like she was fine, but the action advance difference is rough, and then Sunday just kind of came in and mogged her, so that's a bit unfortunate. And then Bronya was dead in a ditch a while ago. Bronya at least has some of the most powerful Eidolons in the game, so the more copies of Bronya you got, the better she would get for you. But I digress. Neither of them were in a fantastic spot. They are still good characters, because action advance is something extremely powerful in this game, and is universally helpful for most characters in this game. They also offer pretty substantial damage bonuses in both cases, and if you get something like an E2 Sparkle offers Defense Shred, which is unbelievably helpful with the right characters. Defense Shred is a exponential multiplier, chat, never forget. It gets way better the higher you get. Back to the main point though, these characters are good. They are not the most traditional top tiers, and they will definitely lose some usefulness based on who you're using them with. I just want to make that very clear, because they're in this top tier spot. You can see them right there on the Preedwin screen, so they are in the top tier spot, but they are not quite the same as many of the other characters up here. Alright, now the next character I'm going to talk about, this is a character that I have yapped about an insane amount, and I'm going to do it again because I'm never getting over why we did this. Let's talk about Cypher. Yeah, I'm not going to beat around the bush. Point blank period, Cypher is a side grade character. She is an amazing replacement for Tribby specifically, and that's really about the extent of what you need to know about the character. She fulfills a lot of the same purposes. With her Light Cone, she can inflict 24% defense down. She has one of the strongest ultimates in the game because her ultimate is based on the strength of your team and your other builds. So that means you can do some crazy shit if you have a good team and a good Cypher. And overall, she actually manages to fill a hole in the game. Because people were constantly saying, oh, I wish I had another Tribby, oh, I wish I had more Tribby. The same way people wish they had more Sundays. Cypher is actually that same character. Cypher actually can fulfill exactly what you're looking for. And people just don't. People just don't think about it. Alright, before I start yelling about that again. The reason Cypher is a top tier is because of all those reasons that I listed. And the reason why I feel like people don't think about her in that way is because she didn't have an ideal team when she came out. She was just meant for Fei Xiao follow-up and was an alternative option for Acheron. Since then, people have learned you can actually slap Cypher anywhere. You can put Cypher anywhere, and it will work. And it has a chance to work. I have seen Cypher with a Jing Yuan. I have seen Cypher with a Gallagher. I have seen Cypher with Casterus. I have seen Cypher with Evernight. I have seen Cypher with DOT. Cypher is a universal support who can work anywhere. And she is very, very good at filling in. Her versatility is unmatched, except by the other best characters in the game. Think about that for a second. What does that say about Cypher if that's the case? That says that she is similarly one of the best characters in the game. And I feel like that's something that people just never really cared to accept about her. Regardless, she is very good at what she does, and if you are struggling to find a character that kind of makes up for a lack of a Silverwolf, a lack of a Jiaoqiu, a lack of a Tribby, Cypher fulfills that perfectly. She genuinely fulfills that perfectly, and that alone warrants a pull of her. I feel like that's pretty obvious. A lot of the community didn't agree with me, but I think it's pretty obvious. I will always, always, always defend Cypher. She is such a wonderful character. She's also really good. Like, she's also just really good. It's not really hard to defend her if we're being honest. I love the hot cat girl. Alright, next up on my list that I want to talk about, there are a few options, but I think who I want to talk about next is actually going to be another sustain. Let's take a second and talk about Huo Huo. Now, this one is going to be a pretty big duality, I feel, because in my experience, people either feel that Huo Huo is too weak or that she is still doing perfectly fine. And the fact that there's not really an agreement to be seen there tells me a lot about the character and the state that they are in. Huo Huo was released in 1.5, I believe, so it's been quite a while, and a lot of other version 1.x characters are not really good, or they've been buffed since then. So what makes Huo Huo still hold up? Well, genuinely speaking, she kind of doesn't, in a sense. She is a character who, her healing can definitely lack a little bit. If you have not built her correctly, her healing will genuinely lack a little bit. And that's dangerous, especially nowadays, because there are basic enemies that can do over a third of your health in one hit, or there is, like, elite enemies who can take out half your health bar in one go and then will immediately move again, or will almost immediately move again. So having your healing be a bit more suspect is incredibly dangerous. Not to mention, she is also fairly reliant on using skill points slightly more often than other healers. So now you're probably wondering what makes her top tier then if all I've done for the last, 30 seconds is shit talker. Well, the thing with Huo Huo is, A, you can actually, you can definitely still make her work. One of the biggest recommendations right now is going to get the newest sustain relic set. It is objectively just a great choice for every sustain in the game right now. Warrior Goddess of Sun and Thunder, honestly, very, very good for just everybody. It increases your speed, which, hey, that means you get even more chances to heal, but then every time you provide healing, you get more speed, and your allies get more crit damage. Great overall. I will say, using a set that increases outgoing healing is still more than valid. It's not that big of a deal. But yeah, switching to this if you can definitely helps a lot. The other thing with Huo Huo and why she is still a top tier, her sustain isn't the part of her that truly matters in any way, shape, or form. She will be able to keep you alive if you have a competent enough build, and you make her fast enough, all that good stuff. Her real advantage is what she offers to your team, and more importantly, to very specific teams that are really good. Huo Huo's ultimate will regenerate energy for all allies, about 20% energy, and it'll increase their attack by 40% for 2 turns. This is so good, specifically for some of the top teams in the game. Characters like the DOT squad, they love having Huo Huo, because all of their ults are extremely impactful and extremely damaging in most cases. Then, there's a character like Gallagher. If you have Sunday and Huo Huo, you can make sure that your E0 Gallagher will not fall out of her enhanced state, which in that case, if that happens, you lose all your damage. This will almost guarantee that that will never happen unless you get, extremely CC'd. Unless something awful happens. And then, she can still be a great choice for characters like the Herda, who's pretty reliant on energy, Anexa, characters like even Mighty, if you really want to get into it, and then a character like Saber, who's also very good. Her sustain is a bit more harder to work around nowadays, but you can still make it work as long as you invest well. And her ultimate has aged like fine wine. Energy is a commodity in this game that is so valuable. and there are very few characters capable of regenerating energy. I think there are more characters who regenerate energy in their base kits only for themselves than there are characters who regenerate energy for other characters. Like, we have Tribby, the Herda, I think Saber, because Saber can regenerate a bunch of energy, because if she can get her meter to the top, then she can get a free skill that'll... Oh my god. What is going on with this game? Energy is super important, especially the ability to regenerate it for your teammates rather than just yourself. That is what makes Huo Huo invaluable, and especially to the teams that really want her, is that no one can really fulfill what she does in a sustain role. The closest thing would be like a quid pro quo Gallagher, which, very good, very, very good, but still not what Huo Huo is. Over time, I've seen more and more people kind of downplay Huo Huo, think she's not really worth it at all, and I understand, but I also think it's just very wrong. She is a very good character still, and I'm not saying that in the sense of, oh, this is a 1.x character who's still doing their best, great job, sweetie. No, this is just a good character in today's meta. Like, is she a bit outdated in terms of what she actually offers? A little bit. Are her numbers a bit down compared to other characters? Yeah. Does she still serve a purpose? And still have a lot of usage? And still keep your team alive sufficiently well? Yes to all of those. Huo Huo still manages to perform even in this current meta, and that's huge. And she does it so well because there are so many characters who can take advantage of her specific set of skills. And that is what ultimately makes her a top tier character. Good job, Huo Huo. Maybe Tail will stop bullying you. I feel like I've already talked so much and I've gotten through like 3 characters. Fuck me, man. Alright, so I've not really talked about many DPS characters. I don't know, it's kind of harder to talk about DPS admittedly, because they're all damage dealers. They all do damage. If you do enough damage, you do good. That's it, that's the end of the story. So it's a bit harder to explain why they're top tiers beyond just numbers. I think this character is probably the most weird in terms of why they are a top tier. And I think that does warrant an explanation. So let's talk about Nexa. This character was initially intended to be a support character for the Herda. The Herda was simply this incredible character, the new dawn of erudition. It was something that many of us could not imagine at the time. The Herda was such a great character, and then you see Nexa coming, and it's like, okay, well, surely you can't stack up to what she was. And oh my god, how wrong we were. What makes Nexa a top tier is his ability to shred anything in the game. And I mean anything. There are very, very few boss fights, very few enemies that Nexa struggles against. And that's just wild to think about, because this is probably the most universal DPS in the game. That's insane that this was like an intended support character. Think about that. That is wild. So Nexa, the way he attacks, every time you attack anything, you will implant a weakness on them. This is important because by implanting a weakness, that means eventually you will get wind weakness if you don't already have it on the enemy. Once that's established, Nexa will do more damage automatically, because the way weaknesses work in this game, if an enemy doesn't have a weakness, that means they just take less damage from a character of that element. Kind of annoying, but, you know, oh well, I guess. Back to Nexa, you will almost always be able to fight an enemy with whatever weakness you need them to have. That means that he, either way, is going to be able to break enemies constantly. Plus, he gets more damage by having more weaknesses inflicted upon his targets. So that's already really good. The part where it starts getting crazy. His skill is a bounce skill. And this skill will actually get more powerful for every enemy on the field that you can attack. And it can duplicate itself. Is that not insane? I've talked about Nexa in the past, and I feel like most people have the fundamental understanding of Nexa. But yes, So every time you skill and the enemy has more than 5 weaknesses, you will get an exact copy of your skill. You can also do it with basic attack, like if you basic attack, you'll get another use of skill afterward regardless. But, you know, if you want to do damage, you're doing skill into skill. This can shred anything. You can get rid of mobs super easily because it'll increase strength based on the amount of targets on the field. But then if you're fighting single target, all of the bounces will go on that single target. That damage stacks up an insane amount, and it stacks up very quickly. All of this is also combined with the fact that Anexa has maybe one of the most flexible rosters in the entire game. Anexa can work with anybody. You can make him work with Bronya. You can make him work with Sunday. You can make him work with Ting Yun, Ruan Mei, Cypher. You can use Anexa with almost anybody, and it will succeed. And in the same way, you can still just use the Anexa with the Herda, and you will succeed. Anexa's place as a top tier comes from his individual strength, yes, but also his strength as a dual DPS character. Also his strength in terms of versatility, how easy he is to make great, because you don't need a lot. And if you have something good, Anexa can take advantage of it and go like the full mile. That is something that not every character in this game can do, and especially not with the same success that Anexa does it with. He is overall just an anomaly of a character, and it wasn't supposed to be this way, I feel like, but it's kind of hilarious that it is, and I know a lot of people love Anexa, especially in my audience. The fact that this character has turned out so well, hey, that's great for everybody, I think, because this just means that people who were trying to get, like, specifically a character for the Herda, or they just really wanted to pull him for him, you ended up with an incredible character, and you can make him work with almost anything. That is not something that comes up often, and really, that just makes Anexa like the free-to-play dream for any HSR player. I was trying to find a joke to insert here, but I couldn't find anything. I was gonna say something about like if you like Anexa and he hasn't come home yet, maybe wear Dromos pajamas, but it didn't work well. God damn it. Alright. There was 2 more characters I had on my list for today. Okay, there was technically 3, but I'm gonna be honest, I don't know why I put Hyacinth on my list. If you're confused as to why Hyacinth is a top tier, go watch a single guide video, or go watch a single 0 cycle clear with Hyacinth, and you will very, very, very quickly understand why Hyacinth is good, I feel like. So yeah, I don't know why that was on the list, we're skipping that. The last 2 characters I had on this list were Gallagher and Ruan Mei. Now, Gallagher is always a personal choice for me. I absolutely love Gallagher so much. She's one of the most fun characters in the game, in my opinion. But Gallagher is a character who things change a lot depending on your investment. And while I do think that she is a top tier, she is a top tier the way I have her specifically, which is E1S1 with ideal teammates. That is not something that everybody really has, and her performance can waver dramatically depending on how invested you are. So, while I do think Gallagher is incredible because Gallagher is capable of being one of the greatest bulldozers in this game, like, really no worry, she can absolutely deal with almost anything you put in front of her. That's just how she works because she's outputting damage so consistently. Despite that, I am going to leave her off the list. We are going to go to my final character of the day, which is going to be Ruan Mei. Ruan Mei is another 1.x character who has held up incredibly well over time, and probably confusingly so for at least a few players. The reason Ruan Mei is a top tier is a bit different than other characters, I feel. It's because she is the character that basically controls a niche while also being a generalist, which is hard to do. Think about a character like Saridra. Saridra is incredible for the characters that she is good for. However, she is very dependent on her niche. She is not a generalist character. She cannot work with most other characters in the game. Then we have somebody like Cypher. Cypher is an amazing generalist, but she doesn't have anything specific that wants her over almost any other option. it's pretty rare. Ruan Mei is a character who manages to do both those things, and it's unusual that she does. So Ruan Mei is the true greatest break support. Now, Fugue is super essential to break teams. However, if you want the same result out of Fugue that you're going to get with Ruan Mei, you need E1 Fugue, because E1 Fugue increases break efficiency the same way that Ruan Mei does. If you don't have that, Fugue is still a great character, but you still need a Ruan Mei then. Ruan Mei combines weakness break efficiency with high damage percent, and also increases your speed. That's wild. She manages to combine multiple aspects of this game that are extremely helpful all into one neat package. This is all while having a super helpful and irreplaceable mechanic. It's been so long that I feel like we have stopped appreciating it as much. The fact that enemies will stay broken for an extra turn if you have Ruan Mei on the field with her ult, that is unbelievable. They just don't get to move for even longer, and for a break character, that's probably enough to kill them. Unless it's like a big boss, then or if you're not invested on the elite enemy, but you get it. Having that advantage is incredible, and it can still be good for other characters and teams, because guess what? The longer the enemy is down, the more damage you still get to do, and that is extremely helpful in the case of sustainless comps. Hey, you don't get to move as much, I don't have a way to heal, but if you die before you get to move, I'm perfectly fine, and the zero cycle goes on. She is a character who is just almost irreplaceable, which is very strange considering the other amazing characters that we've gotten. We have a character like Robin who gives a 100% action advance and one of the most massive damage boosts in the game. And still, Ruan Mei offers something that Robin doesn't, which can make it a valid pick to use Ruan Mei over Robin. That's not normal, but I'm not complaining. It is incredible and it is so much fun. What Ruan Mei offers helps out so many teams. And while she is a bit older now and her damage amp is, it's a little suspect compared to other characters. But she's still really good. She fulfills a niche on multiple teams while also being just a great pickup for any team that needs a bit of support. I feel like when you understand all of that and just how important Ruan Mei can be, it's very clear to see why she is still a top tier after all this time. It has just been so long since this character came out, and she is still kicking. She is still one of my favorite characters on my account that I get to use at least somewhat often. Yeah, my lord, man, they cooked up so hard with her. And yeah, I think we're wrapped up for today. There were some other characters I could have talked about, but for the most part, I do think that I hit all the important ones. Like a character like Avon, Robin, could have talked about them. Probably could have talked about Saber. I haven't done much talk about the fake characters, but overall I'm pretty happy with where we're leaving off. I feel like I hit on all the important ones that people would genuinely have questions about. However, if that's not the case, then hey, leave a question in the comments below. I'll do my best to answer it. There are plenty of people who would be down there who will be happy to help you as well. Alright, well, I got plenty more good videos coming out soon, so I will see you guys then. Bye-bye.